Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Man, I am so happy to welcome Axel Alonso. His reputation precedes him. He was a great Vertigo editor for years, goes over to Marvel, takes over the X-Books, becomes editor-in-chief. Fantastic run. A lot of important things happened. A lot of controversial things happened as well during Axel's run. But now he is with AWA and Upshot, correct, Axel? That's the imprint, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
And man, I am excited because it's got that great Vertigo flavor, and I love that it's a shared universe, but it's a lot of the stuff that brought me, frankly, back to comics in the late '90s. In terms of, I still love superhero stories, but I was ready for something new and something different. And you've usually been the guy that was editing these great books. So thank you for coming back and welcome.
Happy to be here. It's been a while since we spoke, like 15 years, right?
It really has. I know. I'm shocked. And but I say a couple times over the years at cons, and Artie Baltazar is like, talk shoes with him. He likes talking about shoes.
I got stacks over there, right? Yeah.
That's great, man. Well, we'll talk about AWA in a second, but I am interested because we both were. Oh, and I should mention for the chat, Lisa Wu of AWA is monitoring the chat as well. So Axel and I are going to go back and forth before we get into questions from the audience, because again, it's been 15 years, so we got a lot of ground to cover, man. He was still editing the X-Books the last time I talked to Axel, but I want to go back to the beginning. And you were a journalist prior to becoming a comic editor, and what made you want to get into comics?
Well, I loved comic books as a kid, and I rediscovered them in college with things like Alan Moore's Swamp Thing and Frank Miller Daredevil. And I always believed that comic books were about more than superheroes. They were about genres, spinning and blending genres. So I was really excited about the prospect when I saw an ad in New York Times that DC Comics was hiring an editor. I sent in my resume. I didn't expect a call, but I got a call. I didn't expect an offer, but I got one. And I worked at Vertigo, and I worked my way up to be a senior editor. And the one thing I realized at Vertigo, where I learned a lot, was that I'm not really a fantasy guy. It's not my reference points are not that. My references are genres: crime, horror, thriller. To a lesser extent, but a little bit science fiction, more speculative sci-fi than fantasy.
Okay.
I wanted to do those kinds of books. So I set about doing those books at Vertigo. Books, Creature, 100 Bullets, Human Target, Hellblazer, the Vertigo anthologies, and stuff like that.
Well, I'm curious what came first, because did you do the anthologies before they let you do regular series? I mean, what was the order? I mean, I know early on you were. Yeah, tell me.
The first two projects I developed were Unknown Soldier, the Garth Ennis and Kieran Plunkett did, and Weird War Tales. And it was on the heels of that I expanded my reach, and I got more confidence. I was given more leeway to do stuff, But honestly, a book like Preacher, anytime an issue came out, I would look at my email to see if I still had a job. Now, I'm not joking. We got so many complaints from people about how we're going to go to hell. It's blasphemous. I was like, oh my God, when are we going to step over the line and it's going to be me, But it was worth it. It was worth it.
Well, obviously it was worth it. My God, I mean, the success of the television show. I think a lot of Preacher fans were all pretty happy with how that turned out. And yeah, man, no, your association with Garth. I'm so glad you mentioned Unknown Soldier, because I was a fan as a kid, and man, the Vertigo version was just outstanding as well, and very exciting. And yeah, no, I loved it. And I obviously Garth is one of your guys. Garth is very busy these days. Will we see him possibly be at AWA?
Oh yeah. He's a member of our creative council, and he's already got one full series written called Marjorie Finnegan, Temporal Fugitive. Absolutely amazing. We've not done anything, but we revealed one teaser image, but it's about a time traveling bandit, and it's crazy good. I think it's the most outrageous and fun thing he's written since Preacher.
Outstanding. That's excellent, man.
I couldn't be happier with it.
That's great to hear. Outstanding. And also Human Target. I've talked to Peter Milligan several times about Human Target. Man, again, loved it as a kid. And, Peter just took it that one step further and really made it this great psychological study. Yeah. A guy getting lost in his master of disguise, getting lost in his disguises. So exciting.
You are going to love Peter Milligan's American Ronin that he's doing with ACO, the visionary artist that did Nick Fury for me at Marvel. ACO is, I think, the closest thing to Steranko these days with what he does with the page. Amazing what he does. American Ronin is James Bond with mild superpowers. These are secret operatives at war with one another, like Javanians, spy versus spy. But these guys have mopped the floor with James Bond. They're hardcore.
That's great, man. Well, and again, when we'll dip back and forth, and I'm glad you're mentioning that these guys are part of AWA and Upfront and everything, because they're your people. I'm thrilled, man. Jason Starr really enjoying Red Border and what he's doing and everything. I think that's a terrific book. But getting back to the Vertigo stuff,
sure.
When you got the job, did you interview with Karen? Did you interview with Lou Stathis? Who did you?
I interviewed with Lou Stathis, and what happened was that when I walked in the door, wearing a suit, by the way, he said, "I've been wanting to meet you." I'm like, "What?" And he says, "You wrote an article in the Daily News I loved." I said, "What?" He pulled out the article. It's an article I'd written in the Daily News, New York Daily News, about the use of the cannabis leaf in pop culture. And in the piece, I had interviewed a number of people with very, very strong opinions about marijuana, pro and con. It just so happened that one of the people that I interviewed had stolen Lou's girlfriend a few years previously. And the guy had come across as being a buffoon in the piece because he was so hardcore in his beliefs. So the thing was, I didn't make fun of the guy. The guy made fun of himself through his quotes. Lou loved it because he really didn't like the guy. And I have a very uncommon name, Axel Alonso. So my byline stuck in his brain. Because if my name would be Joe Smith, he wouldn't have remembered me. But it was Axel Alonso. So, oh, wait a minute. Is that the dude that wrote that article? So he said, I had to meet you. So we spoke. And at the end of the day, he said, you want the job? And I said, to be honest with you, I don't know. I had to think about it. Then I thought about it, and I thought, you know what? It's a once-in-a-lifetime chance. So I took the job, and the rest is, what it was.
I know so little about Lou. Am I correct? I used to cover boxing for Boxing Illustrated and in Sports Talk Radio for 20 years. And didn't Lou edit a boxing magazine? Am I wrong about that? Do you know?
I don't think he did. I don't think Lou had a passion for sports that I know of. He did do a column for Heavy Metal.
Okay.
For quite a while. and he edited some science fiction books. But I don't think that he had Jones for boxing or any type of sports. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I don't recall that. I mean, I knew him, of course, for many years, but it never came up. And I'm a boxing fan myself.
Attaboy.
I think it would have come up. Yeah, Julio Cesar Chavez is my favorite fight of all time, but that's how it goes. Yeah.
I in the 90s covered his fights with Frankie Randall and De La Hoya. And and he came to Chicago and had a blowout. I can't even remember the kid's name that he just crushed in a round. But my sweet spot for covering boxing was 1989 to 2006, as far as combinations of print and broadcasting and stuff.
We could do an entire show talking boxing. Trust me.
Well, I think maybe a future show, Axel, because I do.
Minimally, next time I see you, we get a beer and talk boxing. Yeah,
that would be great.
I have opinions. Yeah.
I would love to hear them. That's fantastic. And yeah, man, my God. Well, one of the few sports that's back up and running. On ESPN and everything. Crazy.
UFC and that. Yeah.
All right. So anyway, back to comics. That's all right. You see, oh my. Why, was it a bigger opportunity to jump at Marvel? What happened to make you do the leap to Marvel?
What happened is when I was still a Vertigo editor, I went to a party at Chicago Con. I was invited to by Joe Quesada, and I met Bill Jemas, who was the president of Marvel. And he said to me, "Well, what do you think about coming to Marvel?" And I said, "I would never go to Marvel." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Because first of all, I'm not really into superheroes. And second of all, I don't really know much about what's going on in the Marvel Universe, but also it seems like everything's so interlocked and impenetrable. I don't know if I'd be any good at this." And then Bill, with a smile, said, what if I were to tell you that would be a problem?" And then a little bit later, he got more aggressive. He's my partner now at AWA, but he got more aggressive. And I thought about it more and more, and I thought, you know what? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Marvel's in bankruptcy. Everyone is whispering about it's going to go away. But I thought to myself, how can a publisher that owns Spider-Man, the X-Men, Captain America go under? It's impossible.
Yeah.
So I made the jump.
Wow, that's amazing. And also everything you said that you didn't like about a connected universe, too connected, too much continuity. Obviously, when Bill and Joe really took over, they kind of wiped the slate clean and really took things back to the basics. And the
goal was very much that. And that was the thing, is that when Bill was publisher, I had the latitude to say, you know what? I'm going to do Hulk, but it's going to be a horror book. Bruce Jones is going to write a horror book. It's not going to be a superhero book. We're going to do Thor, but it's going to be sword and sorcery. Spider-Man is superhero, of course, but there's elements of science fiction blended because Straczynski's writing it, and mythology. So it's really about looking at the characters as being more than just superheroes and more like genre pieces, which today everyone assumes, because Marvel movies does such a good job of doing that. But it really started back then in New Marvel. We focused on how we do books as genre pieces. Nick Fury is a spy book. The Punisher is a crime book. Punisher doesn't wear tights. He wears a black T-shirt and a trench coat. That kind of thing.
I do. No, I agree, man. And good Lord, again, Garth on Punisher, an incredible run. I wasn't as big of a fan back in the day as I became reading Garth's Punisher, and tremendous respect for what he brought to the character and grounding it, I should say, in reality, as he did.
He'd run he ran in a very entertaining run on Marvel Knights, but he was still constrained because he was still writing a PG book that existed in a world where Daredevil and Spider-Man lived. So I said, how about you write it as an R-rated book, a Max book, R-rated. It's in its own universe. There is no Spider-Man. There is no Daredevil. It's just Frank Castle and bad guys that deserve it. Write it like it's a Showtime or HBO movie, a TV series. And he did. And it was one of the best things ever written. It's a masterpiece. What is it, 66 issues of pure joy. Amazing stuff.
Couldn't agree more. Great characters. Barracuda, an amazing character.
Barracuda.
Unbelievable. Mentioning the Max line, because again, I was an adult man. This is 20 years ago and stuff. So I'm, in my mid 30s, loving what you guys were doing, and really excited about the idea of Max. Clearly, your work at Vertigo kind of maybe was part of the mix in terms of creating the Max line. Is that fair to say? Obviously,
without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, well, what I learned at Vertigo, what I wanted to do at Vertigo was do, like I said, fantasy was not my thing, but I was influenced by crime, horror, and thrillers. So I wanted to do genre work and books that blended genres. Like Preacher was a spaghetti western horror book, So when I looked at Marvel, it was like, what character exists to do what? Luke Cage is blaxploitation cinema. It's a crime book. Hulk is horror. So that was the route I went. So I was very much influenced by what I learned and whatever success I had at Vertigo to take the same approach at Marvel.
At Vertigo, because you leaned into these other non-fantasy subjects, and Vertigo really was kind of led by, that the initial books were, Sandman fantasy and all that stuff. Was there pushback? Was Karen okay? Tell me about the discussion about broadening things in Vertigo to these other genres.
I mean, I think the very early discussions were uncomfortable, the very early ones, but nothing succeeds like success. When Unknown Soldier got an audience, when Will Rorschach did, and when Johnny Double,
Johnny Double, yes,
100 Bullets, Human Target, Preacher, all worked. When they worked and when you leaned, Preacher had elements of the supernatural in it, but they were pepper on the meal. They were not the meal.
I'm with you. So I'm absolutely with.
It just when people responded to it, I always felt there was an audience of people just like me. And the thing is, when I went to UC Santa Cruz, and I had a bunch of friends who all lived in the house on the edge of the highway, this big blue house that used to be a gas station. Whenever you went there, it smelled like weed. There were people all hanging out, listening to punk rock and reading comic books. But they weren't reading Marvel comics. They were reading like Frank Miller, Adrian Tomine, you understand? They're reading edgy stuff, Love and Rockets. And so I was really inspired by that. I thought, if people like this kind of thing, I met enough people that like that kind of thing. I had to imagine they were everywhere.
That's excellent, man. No, I get it. And again, these are the books that brought me back to comics. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And then again, like you say, Bruce Jones on the Hulk. Amazing. Isn't it great? Al Ewing, I think, kind of doing the same vibe that Bruce did 20 years ago.
Yeah, I was editor-in-chief when the pitch came in. And Tom was like, what do you think about doing as a horror book? I'm like, dude, what do you think I think? Yeah, and Al is doing a very different job of it than Bruce. It's wonderful in its own way. Yeah.
No, I'm with you, man. Well, and honestly, Axel, and I've heard you say this in other interviews, a lot of things that at the moment were kind of controversial that while you were editor-in-chief at Marvel were happening. And as you correctly point out, Marvel Phase 4, I think it's Phase 4. I don't know what phase we're in right now as far as the cinematic universe. But a lot of those ideas were things that you were doing in the comic books, 6 or 7 years ago.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because the thing is that, I took a pounding on a lot of things from vocal fans. This dates back to Truth, Red, White, and Black, if you recall.
Yes, indeed.
Bob Morales and Kyle Baker did a book that imagined the first Captain America was a black man named Isaiah Bradley.
Yep.
It was very controversial. I took a lot of heat. There were people that said that I was besmirching Steve Rogers' legacy and all the rest. And when the book came out, there were people who, to their credit, said I was wrong. Once I read the whole book, I realized this story works. But it was controversial. To hear rumors of him being in TV or movies soon is validating. Miles Morales, when that came out, people would say, you're ruining my childhood. Peter Parker Spider-Man, not this Miles Morales guy. Why do you have to do this? Female Thor. When Sam Wilson wore the Captain America outfit, Remender did it first, and then later on, Nick Spencer. Yep. But again, when he wore the costume, it was blasphemy. But now you're looking at Marvel Phase 4. To see Miles Morales in Into the Spider-Verse, to see him up there, along with Spider-Gwen and others, and being embraced by the general public, maybe we weren't wrong. Maybe we're not that bad at what we do. Maybe the instinct wasn't wrong.
Well, I'll even admit, Axel, because I swear to God, man, I'm a bleeding heart liberal Democrat, and I was thrilled that these characters were introduced. But is it fair to say that maybe because they were all happening at once, that might have been because that would be the only thing that I would say is, oh man, if I mean I love Riri Williams, I truly Bennett's one of my buddies, and I love Miles, I love Riri, a lot of the things that he created. But it's like, well, if I want to read an Iron Man book, I want to see Tony Stark,
Yeah.
and I mean, and really, again, at the same moment, whether it was accidental or by, was it accidental or was it by design to have all of them, all the legacy characters at the same time?
The first round was accidental, as I recall. It just so happened it was momentum that took off. People came in. Aaron came in with his idea.
Jason,
Rick Mendes came in with his idea. Everybody came in with a different idea, and we saw the pattern. But at the time, as I recall, we were like, you know what? This is interesting because this is a move. This is in and of itself an event. Because when you have all of the perennials, the core characters who are being replaced, there's a message you're sending, but also it's a story in and of itself. Now, of course, when you do that in some point in time, you're going to reset the clock. Somehow, some way, you're going to reset the clock. And you're going to want to do so with an elegant landing for the characters who are wearing the costume, So you do so with a plan. And a get out of jail plan, But yeah, it was coincidental initially, but then what happened is it was successful. People were responding. The female Thor sold more than ever. Sam Wilson sold as much as Steve Rogers. People were digging it. I think it's fair to say that probably, yeah, there was too much of it. Probably there was a point at which people that were beginning to get irritated had more of a case to make because they saw so much across the line. But what I also say is that, I stand by it because, I think as editor-in-chief of Marvel, and part of what I did, my legacy, I believe, among other things, is that I helped introduce more diversity to the superhero line. I think it's important. I think it's very important that kids see their reflection in heroes. I think it's very important. When we had the idea of a Black Spider-Man, which was before Miles Morales, Reggie Hudlin and I spoke about it. The impetus was, let's do a Black Spider-Man. Because you want to live in a world where you peel back that mask to reveal a different face. Imagine a young Black kid, how they're going to feel when they see their hero is them. So again, I have my own story here. My wife is Korean. She has a cousin. I get it after it was announced that Amadeus Cho was going to be the Hulk. I got a call from her cousin, Roseanne. Roseanne says, Axel, I need to get you on the phone now. It's about 11:30. She says, Reese, her 4-year-old son, Reese, is not able to get to sleep. He's lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, obsessed because Reese thinks he's going to become the next Hulk.
Wow.
So I get on the phone with him and I say, Reese, listen, relax. There's only one Hulk. Right now it's Amadeus Cho, who's a Korean boy like you. But there can only be one Hulk. And also, even if you were to become the Hulk, it's fun. But don't worry, you have nothing to worry about. Amadeus Cho is the Hulk. You will not be the Hulk. When I got off the phone, it hit me. This kid, for the first time, was imagining himself as that character. A wall had come down. When we announced somewhere hate emails, I got one email from a man who said, I'm an African-American man. I've got 3 boys. I work in finance. I'm a casual comic book reader. I don't go to the store every Wednesday. I heard the news about Miles Morales. He said, I'm in tears. He said, it's about time. I can now give a book to my sons. The idea that they can look at Spider-Man, a Spider-Man that looks like them, means more to me than I can say. Now, that means a lot to me.
Sure.
So again, like I said, and also, I'm not some, bleeding heart liberal either. I'm Hispanic. I'd like to see, all the Mexican superheroes are lame. They're all lame. I'm sorry, they're lame. They're all D-list. And the thing is, they're D-list and they're not authentic. I would love a great Mexican superhero. I think we're going to deliver them with a book called Primos at AWA soon. The writer will do that. He's got the right credentials to do it. But again, the thing is, it's like, look, I think it's important that people see themselves reflected. Whether it's that women see themselves, girls see themselves, people who are gay see themselves.
Yes.
people who are trans see themselves, I think it's important.
Yes.
It's important, and it's not pandering. It's good fucking business.
I'm with you, but feel free. By the way, feel free, man. You can drop as many F-bombs as you want, and fuck yes, absolutely.
Do a lot more. Yeah.
No, I agree. And isn't it interesting? I'm glad you mentioned. I'm a Greek guy, so I don't have much to say. Well, Hercules is all right, but I was going to say, isn't it crazy, especially given the luchadoras, that there isn't a great Mexican superhero? I don't know.
Yeah, again, it could be that they exist in their own form in Mexican culture.
Sure.
On the comic page, but the long and short of it is, I mean, I introduced the Zapata brothers in Moon Knight and Deadpool. They were a lot of fun, but again, they're small characters. They haven't jumped to prominence yet.
No, White Tiger back in the day, you know.
Yeah, but White Tiger, Blue Beetle. I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I mean, Black Panther, Luke Cage, Shang-Chi, I get it.
Oh yeah.
Blue Beetle, sorry, no disrespect to Blue Beetle or White Tiger intended, but I just don't feel them the way I do the others. Yeah,
I understand. No, I understand. That's so funny. I used to Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, the Marvel Black and White magazine.
Oh,
the best.
They were my pornography as a kid.
Me too.
Oh my god, I couldn't get enough of it.
You're right. Occasional nudity in those.
Neil Adams covers with Bruce Lee and Jim Kelly. Oh my god, yeah.
Good stuff, man. No, you're cracking me up. That's fantastic. Well, and again, it's funny because, as you said, with Truth, there was controversy with Captain America, and I got to be honest, Axel, the Secret Empire controversy and anger blew my mind, having grown up with imaginary stories, and also it's like, come on, eventually Steve's going to be Captain America again. And I did not understand the suspension of disbelief, or I guess suspension of belief rather, that people were. I mean, my God, I was reading editorials and like, oh, I'm sure you just got nothing but you. I know Nick got a ton of hate mail.
Oh yeah,
but Jesus, man, it's like it's a story.
You get used to it at a certain point when you're in the public eye like that. What I would say is that fans have become extremely proprietary of their stories.
Yeah.
This is in comic books at Marvel, at DC. It's Game of Thrones. It's Star Wars. It's Star Trek. You name it. People are very territorial. What a lot of fans don't understand is that it is the job of the editor and the writer to put characters in tough situations. The job is not to keep them in the status quo, but to put them in situations that challenge them, that put them in danger, put them in peril of becoming something other than what they are. That is our job. Our job is not to do status quo. It's to take them to the edge, bend them, and if you decide to, break them a bit. That's the job.
Here's an interesting question from Ramsey Hassan asking, was diversity on the page more important than diversity on the staff? Now, I think that's a bit of a loaded question, but I will ask because I do think beyond the most recent years, that has been a call of, can we see, a bigger playing field with more diverse creators? So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's absolutely important. Diversity is absolutely important. It's important in all aspects of life, but in terms of entertainment, without a doubt, it's important. When I was in Marvel, we made some attempts and some hires in that direction, but again, there's always room for improvement. So I think everyone in entertainment has to come correct and understand it. It's very important that there's representation and diversity in staff, because you need people with different points of view to tell stories with different points of view. That extends to staff and creators themselves.
Another controversial moment that I shook my head at, but again, middle-aged white guy. So what do I know? But when you guys did the Marvel hip hop tribute covers, and I didn't understand, because to me, I understand the argument of cultural appropriation, I suppose, but hip hop is the mainstream form of music that everyone. I mean, there are white, Eminem's there, and he's legit. Again, old man saying this, so what do I know? But it just it disappointed me that people got that argument out there rather than
the hip hop covers controversy was hilarious, because it started with when it was announced. There were a lot of people that ran out to say cultural appropriation. My favorite was an article that was published where they said that of the artists of the covers would put out, everyone was a white man, which was not true.
No.
In fact, 8 of the 10 people were African American or Jamaican or Filipino. My favorite was when someone criticized the De La Soul cover and said that it was offensive to equate the X-Men with De La Soul, blah, 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 and that the artist Sanford Green.
Love Sanford.
And the thing is, I thought to myself, he did the whole article. My response in an interview was, why don't you Google Sanford Green? Because Sanford Green is black. You won't find anyone blacker than Sanford Green, who is a very close personal friend of mine.
Good dude.
We talk every week. Sanford did that cover, and then De La Soul themselves. Paul Stanus of De La Soul went on social media and said he loved the cover. He was very, very, very flattered by it and loved it. And we've become friends since that point. We've been friends ever since. And what did the writer of that piece do? He doubled down. Well, everyone's entitled to an opinion. So Paul Stanus is entitled to his opinion about it. My opinion's its own. So again, but the thing is that everybody, fucking Nas, came out of the woodwork and said, I love this. Pete Rock, Eminem, Missy Elliott.
Yeah.
You know, it was a tremendous response from within the hip hop community. And then personally, I got a lot of emails. And then the people that did them, more importantly, the artists themselves, everybody came from hip hop culture. Or not everyone, most everyone did. Most everybody, from Sanford Green to Jeff DeCall, when they're drawing comic books and doing covers, they're head bopping to hip hop. They're not listening to the Beatles or rock and roll. They're listening to hip hop. This is their life. This is their culture.
Of course.
Yeah. But man, it took a pounding. It was so validating after the pounding from the comic book press, with their little, their ass backwards analysis. To have the rappers themselves say "shut the fuck up" felt pretty good.
Well, that honestly, man, I remember hearing urban radio interviews that you were doing and video interviews with hip hop, DJs and people and stuff, and it was like very interesting. And again,
when you put a quote by Nas on the side of a 7-Up can to sell 7-Up, that's cultural appropriation. When a Kardashian does her hair in braids, that's cultural appropriation. When people who are of and from the culture, love the culture, or artists, through their art, pay homage to an art form that loves them back, that is not cultural appropriation. Sanford Green doing an X-Men cover is anything but. Caron Grant doing a Wolverine cover based on DMX is anything but cultural appropriation.
I appreciate it.
They say, look at this middle-aged white guy. Motherfucker, I'm Hispanic. What the fuck?
I hear you, man. No. Hey, look, Elliot Magan has joined the conversation. It isn't the job of the writer or editor to change the essential nature of an established character. The challenge is directed at the creator, not the characters. The job is to find a story consistent with and simultaneously challenging to the character, not the reverse.
The job is not to break the character, no. But the point, what we're talking about is the Steve Rogers story. The Steve Rogers story did not break Steve. Secret Empire restored Steve to where he was. He was the savior. He's the one that won the day. That was always the goal. But to get there, you had to put him through the ringer. You had to create a situation that the reader had to wonder, how the hell are we going to get out of this? There's no way. There's no way he gets redeemed from this. And then you do. That's the magic. That was the goal, and that's what we did.
Same thing with Slott on Superior Spider-Man, making Doc Ock Spider-Man. Yeah. And again, people are just tearing their hair out. And I don't know, man. I guess I've seen the magic trick too many times. And I know that, the bunny's, the bunny's into the hat and eventually he's going to pop out. It's like, I don't know, man. It's like, calm down. It's a goddamn story. Jesus, relax.
Yeah, I mean, I just attribute it to the fact that people are very proprietary about their stories. They're proprietary, and sometimes they're mad that they have a better story in their mind than the creator was working on it. They feel they've got a better handle on the character, but it's just the way it goes. You tell a story. Anytime you tell a story, you're vulnerable to criticism. As simple as that.
We're going to get to AWA stuff, but I do want to point out Joe Mulvaney saying Hotel is one of the scariest comics I've read in a long time. How did that series come together? So I'll let you talk about that book for a second.
Sure. Part of my job is to find new talent. I was looking through some indie racks and I saw a book called Sync by a young writer named John Lees. I read Sync and I loved it. Now understand, I can't read anything purely for enjoyment. I'm always partly an editor when I read it. So I'm
Sure.
always editing with a red pen. So I'm thinking to myself, this is what I'd have done if I was his editor. But oh my God, the raw material is amazing. So I called him up. We spoke. I said, hey man, pitch me some stuff. He pitched me something, and there was a baby in the bathwater. It quickly ended up mutating into what my hotel is right now. But the idea was to tell a story about, ultimately, a story of a hotel on the edge of nowhere. You don't find it, it finds you. And it is the place that you go to fight your last stand with the demon that haunts you. It has got the vibe of Black Mirror or Twilight Zone, because every episode is its own story, self-contained. But these stories are all interconnected, so it's a braided narrative. If you read Hotels 1 through 4, you'll see by the end of the series, there's an ending, there's a through line. They're all interconnected. You see the interconnection throughout, but when it comes to a close, you see how everything happened the same night and now it's all connected. So it's, in that sense, it's an anthology. It's an anthology that functions as a braided narrative.
Interesting. That's great, man. No, I we'll get
another thing coming too. It's amazing.
He's got another thing coming, a different book. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I can't wait to announce it. Yeah.
Well, like I said, Axel, I've always appreciated your eye in terms of finding new people and giving us new stories and stuff. Before we get into AWA completely,
sure.
Ken Kramer has an interesting question, and I'm going to expand. I'll let you ask it directly, and then I'll expand from what he asks. Did you consider resigning from Marvel after FF was both canceled and subsequently kept off the shelves due to Ike Perlmutter's purported grudge against Fox?
That wouldn't be the kind of thing I would resign over. If it were to have happened that way, that's not the kind of thing I would have resigned over. I'd be more likely to resign over other things. If I was editor-in-chief at Marvel, we would be doing stories that served as a metaphor for what's going on in this country right now. We would be doing stories about ICE. We'd be doing stories about creeping fascism. We would not be hiding from that. I think the responsibility of publishers is to reflect the world and talk about it. At AWA, we're not frightened to weigh in on these things. The Resistance is a universe that's born of a pandemic. It was written before COVID happened.
Yeah.
It came out when COVID happened, but it's about a world that is embracing fascism out of fear, which sounds familiar, I hope. Around the world.
Yeah.
Around the world. America's not the only country. Around the world, Western democracies are questioning Western democracy in favor of fascism and fascistic leadership. This is a big thing, a global trend we need to be aware of. So again, that's the kind of thing I would resign over. Again, what the company wants to do with a character and its designs for a character, for movies and IP, wouldn't have been the kind of thing I'd have resigned over.
And expanding on that, because again, you are able to do this now at AWA and up front, but I wonder, because Disney and AT&T, Warner, because they have to serve a wider audience, did you see pushback on some of those themes? Was there anybody upstairs? Like, I remember even before Disney owned Marvel, you guys did the Max Fury book, and that was really controversial. And I loved it. But am I right? And I don't want to mischaracterize, but there was going to be possibly a George Clooney, Nick Fury movie or something, and he saw it and was like, "Whoa, hey, whoa!"
I heard rumors of that as well, but again, I don't know if that's an urban legend or the truth.
Okay.
What I do know is that, look, when you work for a company like Marvel on high-profile IP, you always run the risk of getting in trouble. I got in trouble a lot. I was almost fired at least twice in my first couple of years.
Do you mind saying what books got you in trouble?
Ecstatics and Warhead Kid. Yeah.
Okay, I remember both. Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
And
so, the thing is, when you're pushing the envelope, when you're dealing with stories, there's no rule. You're not creating rivets on an assembly line. Hopefully, you always run the risk of getting in trouble.
Sure.
Like when I was at Marvel editor-in-chief, I never felt pushback from Disney. I felt strong disagreements with people up the food chain from me. That's as much as we get. We had a very strong differences of opinion about content, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. and so on. And and again, usually it was resolvable. I myself am not a big fan of massive crossovers. I think that you gain audience temporarily, but you lose the audience long term, because you're doing what scared me away from comics in the first place, which is making everything too connected. But the fact is, as editor-in-chief, you are strongly incentivized to embrace the crossovers, because they're sure money makers to make sure that you can keep the lights on. So understand, it's a natural tension. You're second against last year and your budget. You have a responsibility to keep people employed and books selling. And it's an easy lever to pull to keep things going. As a long-term strategy, I don't like it. We're building a shared universe at AWA, but I want to be very, very, very patient how we build it, and patient about when we pull those levers. I also want to set up real rules, like when you die, you're dead. You follow me?
I do.
Ain't no coming back. You're dead. You're dead. You know?
That's great. That sense of realism.
The really cool creative council. Straczynski has written the Bible for our universe. The Resistance tells the origin of the universe, and he's written the rules of the universe as well. So everybody that writes a book that's in the Resistance universe understands these are the rules, and they're not inhibiting. They're not prohibitive. They give you a lot of latitude, but you just need to understand these fundamental things are true in the universe. Be aware of this thing we're building toward. So don't contradict that. You know, to be honest, these questions I can answer, but these I haven't figured out yet. You know, so shut up about that question. You know, that kind of thing. I'll figure it out.
No, it's cool. No, and I'm glad that the example of the Marvel Summits is now at AWA and up front and everything, and that you guys are getting together with your creative council and stuff. How often do you guys meet?
We've only met like 3 times, but the thing is that we meet more regularly. The thing is that when I've got a creative council, I can send scripts to people for comments and review. The difference is, because we're part of a larger company where everybody's got a stake in it, you're incentivized to help your fellow writer do the best work. You understand?
Absolutely.
So I can go, Garth, I'm wrestling with this. Michael Moresi is wrestling with issue 2 of Archangel 8. What do you think about this scene? You understand? I can do that. With every pitch that comes through for Shared Universe, I go to Straczynski for his notes. I have one book we haven't announced yet for November. This amazing book. And the writer-artist sent me the pitch. And at the last summit at Straczynski's house, I showed it to everybody. Reggie Hodlin, Greg Hurwitz, Margaret Stoll, Straczynski. Everybody beat it up. And we had a couple of notes. There were 2 big notes. They were wonderful notes. When I gave them to the writer, he loved them. He was like, "Oh shit, why didn't I think of that?" No, his book, he's got full control of his book. He's writing it, drawing it, and I'm there to help him do his best work, not get in his way. But he knows a good note. He knows the difference between a good note and an arbitrary note. So that note headed him in a slightly different direction than he was headed initially, but for the positive.
That's excellent, man. And Lisa put out on Facebook who's in the creative council, and I'll list them off. You got JMS, Margaret Stoll, Greg Hurwitz, Garth Ennis, and Reggie Hodlin. And Frank Cho. Frank Cho. Okay, good to hear. That's excellent. That's a murderer's row of creators. That's fantastic, man. That's excellent. And truly, I mean, that's as we shift into AWA. No, the reality is there in the best way. And I think these are great books. And I would say that if you're a fan of the kind of books that Axel was editing in the Max line and of course his Vertigo years and stuff, it's home cooking. I mean, it's great. And yeah, man, I really, I was telling you before we started going, Resistance is terrific. I love JMS. I love Mike Deodato. They're firing on all cylinders. But my buddy Mike Morisi with Archangel 8, terrific mercenary kind of book and everything. I'm digging that.
Basically, the high concept there is if you take Frank Kessel, the Punisher, and John Constantine, Hellblazer, and you squish them together, you've got Archangel 8. What works from it. So in Scripture, there are 7 archangels that fight against demons for the souls of mankind. There's 7 of them. So we said, well, what about if there's an eighth one? What about there's a guy that does all the bad stuff? He does all the dirty tricks, the black bags, the stuff that God doesn't need to know about. This is the stuff. He's the one who's got electrodes on the demon's balls in the basement, torturing him. Let's tell his story. That guy, he's going to hell after this war. So it's Constantine. So it's got a bit of supernatural and a whole lot of Punisher action in it.
Yeah, a lot of real world action, absolutely. And Ollie Masters and Rob Williams doing old haunts. And dude, I'm telling you, I'm a massive fan of Ollie's. Discovered him at Vertigo with The Kitchen, and then followed him onto Killer Groove over at Aftershock. Yeah. And happy that he's doing this book with Rob and you guys.
Yeah, great. I've worked with Rob before, but not Ollie. And what happened was I reached out to Ollie. We spoke. Then he and Rob came back with this pitch. It was one of the first things I acquired, along with Devil's Highway by Ben Percy and Brent Chinaver. But they pitched me, and I loved it because it was like it's Goodfellas meets Jacob's Ladder. It's mobsters and ghosts, mobsters and demons. You got 3 mobsters who want to retire. There's only one problem. They've buried a lot of people in the desert over the years. And guess what? The people they buried are not going to let them off the hook so easy. That's really, really great stuff. And it just gets better and better as you move along. Built to a fever pitch.
Outstanding, man. That's fantastic. I am sad to say I have a family member buried in the desert. He was the back alley abortionist who performed an abortion on Sam Giancana's daughter.
Oh my God.
I know, dude, this family scandal. And it was like family albums of pictures of this guy. And it's like, who's that? It's like, oh, that's Uncle Bill. We don't talk about Uncle Bill. and then Antoinette Giancana comes out with her autobiography. And my sister is reading the Tribune magazine, much like the New York Times magazine. And she's like, hey, remember Uncle Bill that we don't talk about? It's like, yeah. She's like, check out the Sunday paper. And it's like, oh my God. And so, yeah, yikes.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
It's a small Chicago world. So I certainly can appreciate.
That's great. That's great.
So I figured you'd like that. So Devil's Highway. Let's talk about first of all, yeah, man, Ben Percy. You're a massive Ben Percy fan, and it sounds like this is finally his chance to do some big stories with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, Ben, I worked with him back at Marvel on the Wolverine podcast he wrote. We had immediate rapport. I read his books. I knew he was a terrific writer, and I was wondering what he would do if he would do something unrestrained. Something where he wasn't having to be a part of a universe, but just write something from the heart. So I reached out to him immediately. One of the first people I called when I was assembling my talent, because my first few months I was in stealth mode. Everybody wanted to know, what are you up to? What is he up to? He left Marvel. What is he up to? I didn't want rumors starting, so I called people I could trust. I spoke with him. He had this pitch called Devil's Highway. We spoke about it. Devil's Highway changed a little bit from the initial pitch, but it's an amazing story. Again, it's if you know anything about it, it's a crime thriller. It's about. It feels like one of those dirty, grimy crime thrillers you'd see on HBO Showtime. Where the protagonist is a young woman who's like Lisbeth Salander of the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. If Lisbeth Salander were a former Black Op soldier, so she's very, very. She knows her way around the internet, but she'll kick your ass in a heartbeat. She comes home on Christmas to visit her father, to see that her father's been murdered. She then discovers strong evidence that her father was killed by a trucker. She digs a little bit and she confirms that it probably was a trucker, and that she digs deeper and realizes that this trucker is connected to something larger. She's on the hunt to find this trucker to get vengeance. And this is all rooted in the real world, in the headlines, because the FBI estimates it's probably like 30 serial killers operating long-haul truckers in the United States. It is the ideal job if you're a serial killer. Take note, people. If you want to be a serial killer, it's the ideal job. Because basically, you're always on the move, and you've always got access to a vulnerable population.
Wow.
So Ben did his research, and this story's about a woman on the hunt for the man who killed her father. But in order to find him, she has to confront the darkness in herself. We'll hint at. She has a very troubled past, very complicated past. She has to fight her own demons to get to the point that she can track him down and get vengeance. And I view it as being the first of a series of series. I don't think this is the last voyage of Shannon Harrow. It's a 5-issue series, but I view it as season 1.
Interesting.
The season wraps up. The story ends, but there's an epilogue that shows there's some loose threads. That in the course of doing what she did, Shannon has gotten on the radar of some people that have a gripe with her. This might catch up with her later. So look forward to season 2 somewhere down the road.
Very interesting. And also, I got to mention, because he's my buddy, Brent Schoonover, doing it hard. And I'm so happy for him. Again, a guy we were talking about before we started recording. And I'm as you said, and I'll forgive me, I'll quote you. Like he has. I mean, his art has really evolved since when I first met him 15 years ago.
He's a wonderful guy. I mean, we spoke when he started the book. Beyond all, he won't mind me saying this. The first few pages came in. I said, Brent, you're much better than this. Honestly, you're much better than this. I said, the problem is right now you're still in Marvel mode.
Interesting.
You're drawing all the clothing looked like costumes.
Wow.
It didn't feel organic. I said, loosen up. Let some of your sketchbook energy seep into your pages. That's what he did. He went noir. He looked at people whose work influenced him, like Sean Phillips, you understand, Lawrence Campbell, and he came back with an art style that I think has redefined him. I think it's his best work ever.
I'm really happy for him, man. That's great, man.
And then Nick Filardi's coloring as well brings an additional layer to the story.
Yeah, Nick's an amazing colorist, absolutely. Yeah, I haven't had him on the show yet, but Oming and I have spent hours talking about Nick's coloring over the years and everything. So, no, I can appreciate that. Here, Matt Kleinhans, which AWA title, either present or future, had the most challenging development process?
Oh, very good question. Well, I wouldn't call it challenging. The one that required the most amount of time was by far the Resistance, because JMS, who's the architect of the universe, had a lot to consider in laying down the foundation, which meant we need to do a lot of talking about what the bedrock would be. How much bedrock do we need? How much bedrock is too much? So that was the most challenging logistically, because essentially, and I would say the Resistance has got a lot in common with X-Men, insofar as building a world of people who are mutated and changed and have to deal with a world that fears them. As far as the development process, I mean, none were particularly troublesome. I picked people I wanted to work with, so it was easy to work with them because when we gave notes, it was always civil, always fun. So I wouldn't say anything was a problem. I can't think of one that was more challenging than the next. I mean, a lot of work went into plotting some stuff, but overall it was good.
Another book that Ben's doing, Year Zero, and I know Kari Andrews did some covers for it and stuff. And Kari's a buddy, and I guess he's got a series as well in development at AWA.
He does. He's the guy I was talking about before, the Shared Universe series. Yeah, the writer artist. He's got a Shared Universe book. I can't see much about it now, although we've teased it, called Erratic. It's coming out. It's amazing. He's one of those guys like Kyle Baker and Kari Andrews, the complete game, writing and art.
Yep.
And then also packaging and design. So I got him to do the Year Zero covers. They were amazing. And I said, Kari, for the covers, here's what I want to do. I don't want a zombie on any of these covers. Let's do covers that each of them invites you in. It's beautiful. You look at it, it's amazing, it's beautiful. You're getting submerged into it, and then there's a record skip. There's one aspect of the piece that freaks you out. So that's what you do on every cover. Again, I have the first cover, I guess, for Year Zero. You've got this wonderful pastoral setting, beautiful hills.
Yeah.
So you see it's Winnebago. Then you go closer to Winnebago. And what's that on Winnebago? I'm sorry for my inept.
No, here, I'm going to take myself out so you can show it better.
Zombie killer written in blood on the side of Winnebago. Oh, here we go. So it's a beautiful pastoral setting. Then you zoom in on that zombie killer. There's written on top of that Winnebago is a gun turret, and written in blood, zombie killers. This is not what I was expecting. This is not what I thought. So every cover sends a message to the reader that this is a beautiful world that's just gone to hell.
Yeah.
And
No,
it looks like nothing else on the shelves. He's amazing.
I agree, man. Well, he's a great filmmaker too, as we've come to learn over the last few years. So no, he's yeah. No, I'm and I look forward to when you're ready to talk about his book. He's definitely going to be on my want list as far as
yeah, definitely. He'll definitely be on it, I'm sure. Yeah.
No, he's great. He's fantastic. That's excellent, man. No, truly, these books are as you say, they're really grounded in reality and just a little tilt. And like you said, it's the pepper of the supernatural and horror and other elements that sci-fi and everything that you've put in these books. So
a lot of people will say, so is every book part of the shared universe? No, but it will break down like this. Some books you'll immediately know a shared universe. We'll give you amazing overt clues. This is shared universe. There'll be other books will give you very subtle clues. It'll sneak up on you after a while. There's others where there won't be any clues. And in fact, there's even some books that were not designed as shared universe, but you've got to wonder what happened. Like, for instance, I was joking the other day, Bad Mother's finished. I would love to see how Bad Mother fares in the zombie apocalypse. I got to say, I'd be curious. There's nothing preventing us from doing a mashup, you know? So we got the latitude to do a lot of things, you know? So we have a shared universe, but some of our books, like Old Haunts is not shared universe. Old Haunts is a book that takes place in its own universe.
Okay.
It's a story that begins and ends. There's no chapter 2. But many books, like Devil's Highway, there's a season 2 waiting to be written. Year Zero, there's already a season 2 written and being drawn.
Okay.
Resistance, which makes sense, there's already Resistance Volume 2 that's written and being drawn. And a spin-off series called Moss that Straczynski wrote that's written and being drawn.
Okay.
So again, many of our books are designed. Archangel 8, American Ronin. Our goal is to make it ongoing. No, they're not ongoing series, but an ongoing series of limited. So there'll be a limited series every year or so.
Okay.
New chapter, a new season of TV, so to speak.
That Vertigo, or pardon me, that Image model of 5 issues a trade, and then when there's time, you get to the next
Kind of like that. Yeah. We did it a bit at Marvel when I was there to build a season, a season of a book, refresh it, come back. Now these characters are all new, so the thing is that we tell a movie length epic, tell the story, it ends, but there'll be enough loose threads, that you can come back and revisit that character or that world again.
Understood. Here, let's see. Lisa says Devil's Highway is incredible. We sold out the stock. We sent Diamond the first week of its debut. If you didn't have a chance to get a copy yet, we did restock, so you make sure you talk to your local shop. Very nice. Excellent. And then also we gave CBR the first 10 pages for you to enjoy while you're waiting for your copy. Very cool. That's awesome. Looking through here, and I want to, because some people are already asking questions regarding the AWA books, so I want to give them the chance to chime in. Oh yeah, here. How did you choose the creative council? Obviously, these are writers and artists that you trust, but yeah, just putting the gang together.
Well, I wanted to have people that I thought were not only had a footprint in comic books and a real love for comic books, but also in other media. People that can help us grow our company. I really, there's people I just flat out wanted to work with right at the gate, which includes everyone on the list, but especially Garth Ennis, Greg Hurwitz, and Frank Cho. I couldn't imagine starting the company without Frank Cho. Straczynski was, the funny story is Straczynski's the one where when I was thinking about shared universe, I thought I need someone to be an architect. I need someone with a brain far bigger than mine to do the heavy lifting. And I thought there's no one better at building a universe than JMS. I knew from experience on Spider-Man and Thor and Supreme Power. I knew that also, obviously, from Sense8 and Babylon 5.
Sure.
I thought I need someone of his caliber. So I flew to LA to see him. I had business there, but the real reason was to see him. The main reason was to see him. I never told him that. He's just hearing that now. But I went to his palatial house in LA. I remember walking up the driveway, my legs were shaking because this was it. This was the pitch. I emailed him and said, Joe, I'm going to be in LA next week. I'd love to chat with you about what I'm up to. He said, yeah, come on by. Have a nice tea. So I came by, sat down with him, and I said, look, I'm part of a new publisher. I'm looking to start something big. Part of it's going to be just creator-owned books in their own universe, and part of it's going to be a shared universe. And he said, I was hoping you were going to say something like that. I was like, really? We spoke further, and he said, I'm in.
Wow.
So at that point then, we had the verbal, and then we just worked with him and his representation to make sure we could come to fair terms, because we were asking him to be involved in creating a shared universe as well as creator-owned. And, again, JMS doesn't need the money.
Right.
JMS can make much more money writing movies and TV. The reason he's writing comic books is because he loves comic books. If you have not read Straczynski's autobiography, Becoming Superman, rush out and read a book. Read it. It is a story about him persevering against all odds. This is a guy that should be dead 100 times over.
Yeah.
Or living in the Bowery. He essentially, his talent and will to live made him survive. No one beat him down. Least of all his parents, who almost killed him twice. And what saved him was Superman and fantasy. Science fiction books and Superman saved him. They gave him a hero, something to aspire to. So he feels he owes a debt to the medium. He feels like if he can write a comic book that changes a kid's life, the way Superman changed his life, it'll be worth it. So that's why he's back. He's creating a shared universe about the characters he's created are very human. They're flawed. They're living in a world that hates them. They're living in a world that's embracing fascism. He's writing a contemporary. We want to create a superhero universe for the 21st century. The DC characters they created in the 40s and 50s,
yes,
they're all cops. The Marvel characters are counterculture characters created in the 60s and 70s, with a couple maybe in the 80s, but mostly the 60s and 70s. Black Panther, Luke Cage, Spider-Man, you name it. 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
We want to create characters that are rooted in now, rooted in today, for people, for youngsters that are living now. I want a comic book that my son would read. I didn't have this piece of technology, the iPhone, when I was a kid.
Sure.
The world has changed in many, many ways. So the thing is that we want to tell. And then when I said to JMS, when we talked about the shared universe, I said, look, my one note is this. I think it would be really good to create a universe where there's one inciting incident that results in the superpowers. So in other words, the people that get the powers, they don't develop them because they were walking down the street and they got bit by a radioactive raccoon, but because something happened. Something inexplicable happened. I think this is cool because it also links them. It means that whether you live in Bangladesh or Schenectady, you're linked. That is one of the strengths of X-Men, is mutants are all linked. Whether they're like one another or not, they're family. So I thought we could accomplish that here by having these characters linked by the tragedy, but also they're born under the cloud of tragedy, which means there's a lot of existential questions they have to ask themselves. And I said to Jim, he said without blinking, it should be a pandemic. And I said, yeah, he said, people are not scared about nuclear war, except when Trump yells at Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un. The thing is that people aren't worried about that. We don't live in duck and cover era anymore. People are worried about a super flu. They're worried about the next thing. So we said, yeah, let's do it. So he wrote it more than a year and a half ago. He wrote it. And then we launched issue 1 the week of
the virus.
Yeah, the week that everything shut down.
Yeah.
You can be more prescient than that,
I'm with you.
We want to be about the world today. We are. And you'll see, if you've seen evidence in issue 1, that the world is about to take a turn. A lot of people are going to exploit the devastation. They're going to exploit fear, and they're going to create an atmosphere of fear and reprisal against the reborns, and they'll rise to political power. And they'll sow fear. They'll use fear to acquire power and then crush people. And people embrace fascism out of fear. So you think we're being timely in that regard as well. Like I said, we're not afraid to talk about the world. But then again, this is an entertaining story about heroes. It's a hopeful story. It's about heroes persevering. It's about heroes rising above. People coming together and not letting the world crush them.
Well, and again, you've got new characters, so you aren't bound by continuity and expectations,
Yeah.
which is huge. And again, this is, I think, was a hallmark of a lot of your Vertigo stuff as well. There were no expectations for Preacher or
Yeah.
even Hellblazer. Starting from Swamp Thing, it was still open enough to go the places that it did. 100 Bullets, certainly. I mean, that's, you know.
Are we prepared? Who are we prepared to kill? What are we prepared to do with our characters? You might love a character. Might they take a turn you never saw coming? Might they break bad? Well, we can do that. If you're reading Spider-Man, you know that Peter Parker's never going to break fully bad. If he does, some people will kill you and say you're killing your character. But everybody knows at the end of the day, as you put it, you'll know he's going to be good again. You know?
Hopefully, yeah.
You'll put the genie in the bottle. But in our world, don't be so certain. Don't be so certain.
That's
JMS introduced the villain in season 2 of The Resistance. It's one of the coolest villains I've ever seen. Oh my God, he's terrifying. Absolutely shit your pants scary. So creepy. Not because of his powers or how he looks, but because of who he is.
Okay.
How he operates.
Interesting. That's great, man.
Yeah.
You know, last summer I got to talk to Joe about his autobiography, and he was incredibly generous with his time. And man, I'll tell you, we you know, as best we could in 90 minutes, we covered everything. So I'll be bugging you guys to talk to Joe about Resistance, because I feel like, again, because of the constraints of the shared universe at Marvel, and again the expectations, obviously now he's kind of your ringmaster, so it puts him in a different position. Obviously collaborating with others, but he's in a different position than he was in, say, the Marvel summits. It seems. Yeah,
very much so. But I won't front. He's the one who's driving the bus. I'm here to make sure the tires are filled. Yeah, the oil is changed and the tires are filled. And then the creative council are there to help us make sure that the line as a whole has the type of range and depth that it needs, which is why I picked the people I did.
JMS love here. I've been in love with JMS's work for roughly the past 35 years. Babylon 5, Crusade, Midnight Nation, certainly. Again, a lot of those Joe's Comics imprint that he had and his original stuff, I think was the difference. Dante is an interesting point. The Book of Lost Souls, another Marvel project with Colleen Dorn, as I remember.
Yeah.
So one of his favorite creator books.
What's the one? Time Cops. What was it called again? Dream Police.
Yes. Well, that's Dante.
Diodato.
Oh, yes, that's right, Mike Diodato. That's right. Any chance of Joe bringing his previous creator-owned works to AWA, continuing those previous stories with you guys? Is that a possibility?
Let's just say we've talked about it.
There you go, John.
The thought has occurred to me, yes.
That's fantastic, man. That's excellent. Honestly, Axel, I think what you're doing is fantastic. I'm glad that you found this home. So up front is your line of comics. Tell us regarding AWA as much as you can. I don't want to spoil anybody's marketing plans, but AWA is, I guess, the bigger company. Yeah. Explain the relationship between AWA and Upfront and what they're also about.
AWA is the company under which there will be several businesses and studios. You understand? Now, Upshot is...
Pardon me, Upshot.
Upshot is us taking the beach, so to speak. We charge the beach. We're taking Omaha Beach. We're taking the beach with what we know. We know the comic book market and audience. That's who we love. That's our medium. So we're taking the beach of the comic books that we all grew up loving, and the range, everything from stuff for kids to adults. We're going to get out there, tell some really good stories, and then we have another line called iPop, which will be more to say about that soon, about what its goals are. But its aesthetic and goals will be very different than Upshot. And then at this point, we have very slow burning plans for a third imprint that is coming into. I just did a retreat at my partner Jonathan Miller's palace upstate. I've never seen a nicer house. Oh my God, do I feel poor? But again, we went there, we spoke, and we fine-tuned the idea of this third imprint. So that's coming into focus more and more. We'll have more to say about iPop and that down the road. But again, right now, it's about patience, about laying down. We're doing what we know immediately, getting that down, and then we'll diversify over time, and you'll see what we're doing.
Okay, and that might answer Ramsey's question here, wondering what your thoughts are on the current boom in the kids' original graphic novel market, and if AWA
Yes.
will be thinking about all ages books.
Yeah, yes, I've already done one book fully completed. I'm very proud of. Keep an eye out for. We have not announced it yet, but we will soon. That is a book that's squarely aimed at a YA audience. And what's interesting is that the letter of the book said, "My kids never care about the comics I'm doing until they saw me doing this book." He said they won't stop coming up behind me and say, "What happens next? What happens next?" And again, it's got the feel of a Pixar movie, that vibe. It's written for kids, but it's something an adult can appreciate as well. The beautiful thing about a Pixar movie is you can go see it with your 5-year-old. I've done that. You'll enjoy it every bit as much as they did.
Sure.
Because it's there for you as well. That's the goal. So I've got one book like that. I got another book that skews a bit more YA. It's already written and drawn. But that's more YA than kiddie friendly. But yeah, I think it's very important to create content for kids. I think it's an unexploited market.
There we go. And Lisa wants to clarify for the Facebook people that aren't seeing this message. Upshot Studios is part of AWA, which focuses on what we know and amazing stories. iPop is another company, and the third is coming. Stay tuned.
Yep.
Very nice. Very cool, man. No, that's amazing. Axel, I'm really glad that because as usually happens when somebody leaves one publisher, it's very rare that somebody can walk away on a victory lap. It usually is something, doesn't click with the audience or whatever. So I'm glad that after what happened at Marvel, you found yourself now in this new situation. And, again, I think it's playing to your strengths as an editor and storyteller. And it sounds like you've assembled a great group of creators.
I'm proud of my time at Marvel. There's been a lot of bullcrap spread out around on the internet, especially by the Comicsgate folks about what happened between Marvel. I don't want to get into that. What I will say is no one's got it right. No one's got it right. And the thing is, I still have many friends at Marvel. I think we all understood that there's a time when you just have to say, you know what? I'm done. There's a point, like I said before, there's times when you just have your disagreements. You have disagreements. They're strong enough that you just realize that you're just, it's not working out. Like I said, I'm happy for Marvel, but I had a wonderful time at Marvel. It changed my life. I grew up there. I have many friends there. I don't want to be editor-in-chief now. I'm happy not to be editor-in-chief. Heavy is the crown, but I'm proud of what I accomplished there. I've made many, many friends. And I've known also in building this company, I've also seen how I'm regarded in the world out there, in various media for what I did, what I accomplished at Marvel and at Vertigo. People know who I am. They understand what I brought to comic books, and it helped. It was part of the reason that we got funded from the wonderful people that have funded us now. The people that have funded us, we've got wonderful investors who know. They love our mission statement, how we want to create the best deal for creators. We want creators to know that they can do original work where they can bet on their original idea without putting it all on the line. We're going to take the risk for them. We're going to pay them for it, and they'll have a stake in what they do. They'll either own it outright, the IP, or they'll have a stake in it. But they know. So if you create something for the shared universe, you have a stake in it. If that becomes something big, you're getting paid. Why? Because it's in your contract. Excuse me, it's in your fucking contract.
By all means, attaboy.
Yeah. So it was a goal. Our investors put a premium in that. And again, they view us as having a unlimited potential to change the medium and to grow the medium. Our medium, I said this before, but our medium is only as limited as our tastes, our talents, and our guts. You can do anything in this medium. Any genre, any fusion of genres, any story. You got an unlimited special effects budget, for starters. There's fewer people involved in creating it than any other medium. The journey from idea to print is much shorter than a movie or TV show.
Yep.
The opportunity for collaboration is amazing. It's an amazing medium in that regard. And there's a reason that Hollywood has stripped mine comic books. It's an amazing place for original ideas. And we think we've got plenty of them and the people to do it.
I completely agree. And I think, again, you've assembled a great team of people, including Mike Diodato, who is apparently watching. And that's great. And Mike,
there you go. Well, let me tell you, that's funny because Mike, I love. I'm never going to get Mike. And then he tweets one day about how he's doing Berserker and he's thinking about doing more creator owned. I'm like, oh my god! Reached out immediately. Hey Mike, guess what? Guess what I'm up to? We spoke a bit more, and that was that.
That's awesome. And forgive me, does Mike speak English well and everything? Because I'd love to talk to. While Lisa's watching, I'll have to arrange a talk with Mike. I'm a longtime fan of Mike's work.
My God, he has a delightful review, and Mike could kick your ass and my ass together in like 30 seconds. Go on Twitter and see his jiu-jitsu, I believe he's practicing. Oh my God.
Oh Jesus, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's one hardcore guy.
That's fantastic, man. That's hilarious. Wow.
But yeah,
KOL regarding genre, any westerns possibly?
Oh, you're gonna see it. Yeah, don't worry.
Excellent.
Yeah, we got that covered. Yeah.
That's great to hear. Fantastic. No, like I said, Axel, I'm shrugging, man. This is very exciting.
Oftentimes we got genres like we might have Western with a twist. We have mobsters with a twist. We got Western with a twist.
Sure.
We've got science fiction with a twist. Again, nothing we do is what you'd call straightforward. There's always like a wrinkle we're bringing into it to make it interesting.
That's great, man. That's fantastic. Real fast as we wrap up, the books that are coming out next month. Repeat them for me. I know Frank's got a book, and then the other August.
Well, this coming month, I believe, is Devil's Highway just shipped in July. August is Bad Mother, one of my favorite books. Bad Mother is Krista Faust, a crime novelist, and Mike Diodato telling the most amazing crime story. The high concept is, imagine if Frank Castle was a soccer mom. All right? Essentially, it's about a soccer mom, a woman named April Walters, average suburban soccer mom. One day, her daughter stumbles home with a black eye. April goes to confront the guy who gave her the black eye, her boyfriend, her daughter's boyfriend, who she doesn't like. When she gets there, she realizes something big has happened. Daughter's missing. She knows something's afoot. The police think, well, give us 48 hours. Your daughter probably ran off with a boyfriend. She'll be back. Long and short is that what you've got is a situation where April knows her daughter didn't run away. She knows her daughter's a victim of foul play. The only thing is, how's a soccer mom going to track down her daughter and save her? So what's amazing about the story, it's got a lot in common with Walter White in Breaking Bad. Walter White was an average dude in darker pants. No superpowers. And essentially what he did was he discovered who he really was. He discovered who I really am. April Walters will do the same thing. She'll realize I am the first person you don't notice. No one respects me. I'm overlooked. That is my armor. So when she finds out what's happened to her daughter, she uses every weapon at her disposal to get her daughter back. It's brilliant. And Mike Diodato, I sent the script to Mike Diodato thinking, okay, we'll see. It's a Hail Mary. We'll see what happens. He read the script. He's, oh my God, I love this. This is the greatest story. I'm in. It was amazing to have the artist for Avengers, X-Men, Wolverine, Spider-Man, Hulk, say, I want to do this slice of life crime story. Yes, this is worth 5 months of my life. It was amazing. What he's done for the book, again, I can't wait for you to read it and see it. I'm so proud of it.
I'm psyched, man. No, and again, it was his level of realism for his art that made those Marvel runs so distinct. So it is thrilling to see him play in your universe in Resistance and now Bad Mother. That sounds great. Lisa,
go from Resistance to Bad Mother. August is Bad Mother. And then in September, Grenville, Kentucky, by Jeff McComsey and Tommy Lee Edwards.
Oh, wow. Another good man, Tommy Lee. Jesus Christ.
There was an article in the Hollywood Reporter last week about this, but the high concept there is that basically Grenville, Kentucky is the Beowulf myth transplanted to 1970s America, the hills of Kentucky. The hills of Kentucky. But the thing is, our Beowulf is the leader of an all-female biker gang.
Okay.
That's got a total grindhouse movie feel. Her father, her surrogate father, is discovered, ripped to shreds outside a mine in her home, Wendell, Kentucky. So she goes back to the funeral. She's at the funeral. They uncover clues as to what might have happened. Why was he discovered, ripped to shreds outside this mine? She digs deeper, and you discover the monster in the mine, the Faustian pact that the town made with it, and then ultimately the clash between our Beowulf and that Grendel. It's amazing stuff, and Tommy Lee draws the shit out of it.
Of course he does. Sounds great, man. No, that's hilarious and excellent. And then Lisa lets us know that in October is Peter's American Ronin, which you briefly mentioned earlier. Yeah, man.
Yeah, Peter Milligan and ACO, who did the amazing Nick Fury book for me back at Marvel. He's like a 21st century Steranko, have a spy thriller called American Ronin. And essentially it's about a near future world where corporations call the shots, and the way that they war with one another is through these highly trained operatives who are genetically enhanced. So American Ronin is about a story of one of these operatives who manages to break free of his mental shackles, and he sees the big picture, and he decides, you know what? I'm going to bring the whole thing down. So he's gone rogue. He's a Ronin now. So it's about him hunting for the men who created him, and them sicking another Ronin on him to stop him. So it's amazing, amazing spy story. As I put it, these are super spies that would mop the floor with James Bond. He would not want to encounter them because they're genetically enhanced. They're raised from the age of 6 to do what they do, and they're genetically enhanced, so you do not mess with them.
Sounds great, man. No, that's great, and always love Peter's stuff. So that's terrific to hear. And Lisa's got some links for us. If you want to check out Bad Mother, awastudios.net/series/Bad Mother, and then get to know the creators. There you go. That's nice over at Screen Rant. Lovely. Outstanding, man. Very, very cool.
But Screen Rant wrote about Bad Mother. Hollywood Reporter wrote about Grendel. I got it mixed up.
That's cool. That's all good, man. All right, Axel, listen, I know it's dinner time. I'm going to let you enjoy your evening. Please come back because
I'm happy to. Yeah.
I mean, good Lord, your body of work. I would love to talk to you more about the past, but also what's coming up with what you're doing for Upshot and everything.
No. Let's plan on it because, again, you're going to see us building a universe. You're going to see the bedrock and us building over time. You'll see the books we're doing. You'll have questions that you don't have now.
I'm sure.
You'll have more to see. We'll get people on your show, Diodato, for instance.
Sure.
Michael Moresi, Ben Percy, get on to talk about their books in particular if you want. Cool.
Sounds good, man.
Then you and me, we got when COVID's over, if we're at a con,
boxing
place on the side to talk about boxing. All right.
Well, listen, I have a boxing podcast, so we could set up a separate conversation to do that as well. Pre-cons when the cons come back. So thanks a lot, Axel. Truly, I appreciate your time tonight, and all the best and congratulations.
You too. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thank you, Axel. Oh, I'm sorry, man, I cut him off. Axel, everybody, and Lisa, thank you very much for being in the chat and keeping people informed. Thanks for hanging out on Word Balloon tonight. Word Balloon Live. More great stuff coming this week, and to move some stuff around. Going to be doing a pre-recorded conversation with Gail Simone. Sometimes she has internet issues, and I don't want her to come on and have trouble speaking. So we're gonna work through that. But also talking to Wilson Kevich on Thursday, John Gray on Thursday, and Richard Starkins on Friday. So it's a full week here at Word Balloon, both on our YouTube channel and on the podcast as well. So until then, I always say thanks a lot for watching. Thank you for listening, and more great stuff coming from Word Balloon in the days of this. Until then, stay safe.